Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Practical Poker Profits Podcast. My name's Louie, and today I wanted to talk about um, hand, uh, hand ranges, or like the strength of hand ranges and starting hands that we go into pre-flop. When we get started over there in our local card room, and so I want to kind of go over that, and then even talk a little bit about like something that doesn't get talked about that much. I don't think as much as it should. I want to talk about uh, as well patience, because it's something that I think it gets overlooked a little bit, because out there, whenever you're trying to look for guidance and tips and information on poker, there's always a lot of like tactical stuff and strategic stuff, and like like charts and all that. But what doesn't get talked about is how often you fold, in a sense, and also what comes with that. And when you get card dead, card dead means that you're not getting any like playable hands, and you're just getting a bunch of trashy hands, trash hands we went over towards the end of last episode. Just it's the super low part of the of the range, like the shitty crappy end of the range, which you don't really want to be playing too much, like for example, 2-6 offsuit and 3-7 off. Things like that is just kind of like, you don't really want to waste your time, unless you're feeling super maniacal. But in we're not really here to talk about that. We're here to talk about practical ways that you can chip up and have a nice hourly, or stuff like that, or just to be able to be a successful poker player in your card room, where you're able to hang in there and have some form of longevity and stuff like that, so you can like establish yourself there as a poker player, because that's a whole thing. It's like you'll see people come and go all the time, and I mean, people will make moves. You'll see people have big runs sometimes, especially when I went when I started playing in the card room, when the pandemic was going on. You would see people that you could tell, including me, that there were you know they were new, but at the same time, in their mind, they felt like they were so far ahead. And then, because they would maybe probably go on some runs and be chipped up a little bit and stuff. But a lot of a lot of people you would never see back again, especially the people that kind of would be like huffing and puffing. And so it's like a thing, to not be a fish. A fish is someone that will also just go in and out of there and just get sucked in the system and chewed and spit back out. And so um, it's a good idea to be able to realize what good starting hands are, and then the whole idea of like patience and and knowing like kind of like what like how much you have to bring to the table, in a sense, because it's certainly a thing that you're going to have to utilize, including not getting bored. I That might be a thing. I'm guessing that's probably another main reason is people will just get bored, and they'll just start playing some stuff they shouldn't be playing, some hands, or maybe calling down because they wanted to see, they wanted to look the guy up and see what he had. And yeah, so um that's something that you want to end up disciplining yourself on, that, especially if you just kind of if you just kind of have the motivation to go there to just either like, see what happens and blow off steam and all that stuff. Like that strategy is not really too good. You want to have like a tactical sound plan of like the things that you're going to be playing, and then the things that you're not, and not change your mind halfway through the session, just because you either got pissed off, tilted up, steamed up, or maybe because you got bored. Another one could be, people, who use their phone, will just be on the phone watching like a movie. You'll see people sometimes watching like YouTube, and or on different apps, like Instagram and social media things, and or just some kind of videos. Like, I think like it's like a trip when you see people watching like YouTube, like a YouTube video, and they're just like hanging out there and they have their little phone on the phone rest, and it's a trip because they don't know what's going on in the game, and they're just literally apparently you're just literally like playing cards, like just straight up cards, like very black and white, literal, like in a literal, super literal sense, and that is very hard to win like that. That means you have to get really lucky. That means you have to get hit with the deck. You know what I mean? Getting hit with the deck means that you're getting smashed with all these good cards, or you're getting pocket kings, pocket aces. You're just getting hit with the deck. Like and frequently, right? And so for that to happen is rare. You don't always get hit by the deck, and that's why I wanted to talk about patience, because it's something that gets overlooked. And so it's like I just want to let you guys know that you know it's not as glorious as it seems. Like, you have to find a way to tune in and get into the game, and not just be like on YouTube or on social media and stuff like that, and like scrolling around, or like texting your friends or your girlfriend or something like that. And um yeah, because that patience factor is something that you're really going to need, especially if you get card dead. And because it's going to test your mind, and it's going to make you have to buckle down, settle in there, and even maybe come to decisions of like, man, if this keeps on happening to me, like if it keeps going like this, maybe I'm just going to end my day early, because I just don't even have the patience. Like, if you start feeling impatient, maybe you can tell yourself, okay, like, 20 more minutes and I'm out of here, or 15 more minutes and I'm out of here. Like, it's okay to do that too sometimes. Um, if you're feeling that, if you're going that car dead, and if your impatience is like running out and stuff like that, like that'll be okay if you want to cut it early. And because you don't want to go into the session where you just, like, your motivation is like off kilter. You know what I mean? Because th- moves, like splits, like little split-second moves happen after the flop, after the turn, and then on the river. And sometimes these things can fly by quickly. Like, people can be shoving chips in your face and going all in front of you, and this and that, whether they're bluffing or not. And it can go by really quickly. And then so you want to make sure that you're not feeling like off, where your brain is somewhere else, or your energy is kind of fried or zapped, or you're steamed up, because it will lead to making, errors and bad decisions. And after that, you're going to, like, that's, a big loss for the day, money wise and stuff. And so um yeah, it's okay to know to put yourself in a good spot. Be like, okay, say, I'm gonna call, like, going with this mindset, and then and have a feel for it. And if the things start really changing, like, you could just tell that this shit is just not happening today, it's okay. And it's okay to freaking see another day. And then being able to recognize that is something that's very good. It will make you money in the long run. In a sense, it definitely will. And recognizing when you're in a good spot or a bad spot is also very good. You want to be able to just kind of put yourself in good spots. That even applies to like table selection. Sometimes in the morning you might not have that option of table selecting because a lack of people, but later on in the afternoon or and in the night, there'll be more tables open, and then you can do a walk by in the beginning, and to kind of assess, the spot that has these super crusher, guys at the table, these super aggro, crazy guys, which you probably want to avoid. And then you want to go to a table that's kind of more medium. You know what I mean? I mean, you also don't want like a cart, like a dead, like a super nitty table. Like, that's also kind of annoying. But you just kind of want to avoid extreme tables, basically, in a sense, and find this kind of like a nice in between table. And then that's somewhere where you can kind of be able to kind of have patience and not have people, going over you all the time. And at the same time, you can assert some aggressiveness when it's good, appropriate spots for that, and hit it hard, when it does come down to it, in your certain spots that you see. And so, yeah. And I'll tell you this, man. It's like it really makes you think a lot about, like, it'll make you question your whole session. It'll make you question your whole everything once you're getting like your patience just running super thin, because these things do happen. And it's funny because it just doesn't get talked about. It doesn't really get talked about that much. So you have to understand that that is a part of this game. And then when you go in there, you want to, it's okay to go on your phone a little bit. I do it too, but to just be constantly on your phone where you're not paying attention to like the moves that everyone's making, that's not good. That's not good. You want to be tapped in. You want to be tapped into the felt, so to speak, and have a feel about how everyone is in general. And then the swing is like, like a poker game will have kind of like its storyline. Like maybe sometimes in the beginning, these two maniacs were going at it crazy. Then later on, things got tight, and then tight in the game where nobody was raising nothing, and then later on, everyone started going all in. And then there's certain guys around you that you could tell like they're starting to kind of lose it, or they're losing their patience, or they're just losing a lot of money. So now they just want to come back, and they're more vulnerable or something. Like there's all types of different scenarios and stories that happen throughout the game, throughout the session. And so being able to pay attention to this is something it's mandatory. And especially the first 45 minutes, the first hour, you want to settle in there. It's okay to not it's okay to even be a little tighter in that first hour, because so you can kind of check out what everyone is like and see what kind of moves they like to make, and whatever, and their levels of aggression. And then after that first 45 minutes, an hour, you can really feel and see like, oh, okay, like you can get a feel for the whole game. As long as you've been paying attention pretty well, you'll feel pretty decently confident in the general feel for the game. And then after that, then you still have to pay attention all the time, and especially when you're in a pot, obviously, right? So that goes without saying. I want to share a little bit of uh hand like this chart that's about hand strengths. So let's get to it. All right. So all right. Hand strength charts. All right. So okay, good. I'm there. So I'm just gonna read this top part here before we get into the charts. Okay. So it may be obvious, but look at how every starting hand wins less against more opponents. Statistics are telling you why you need to isolate with premium hands. Every Texas Hold'em poker hand by winning percentage. These charts show the average winning percentage, its equity, of every Hold'em hand at Showdown. To find a specific hand's rankings, look it up by its largest card, and noted the unpaired cards and are unsuited, and the suited cards at an average of winning percentage of 3 to 4%. Okay, it's cool to know. So here we're going to start. So this is average winning percentage out of 100 with pairs. So on the left, you'll see that you have from pocket aces all the way down to pocket sixes, which is the pairs. When you say a pocket something, that means the pair of that, ace, ace, king, king, a matching pair. Okay. Then uh, on the right, you'll see that it's going to have the gauge of a chart of the number of opponents, the number amount of people that you are going against in a pot. And that's why the max is capped at 8, because usually when you play at your local card room casino, it's a 9 person it's generally 9 person max. I think Texas is maybe does 10 a little bit, but I don't know. But what I play is the 9 max. So you have 8 people that you can play against at most, and then you have 1 person that you can play against at minimal, which is on the left part of the numbers. So obviously, you see that when you play somebody with pocket aces 1-on-1, you're gonna win an average. Out of 100 draws, you're gonna win an average of 85%, 85 out of 100. So that's really good. That is damn near, like you don't want to get the you don't want to get the feeling or the connotation or the entitlement of like, oh, like I deserve to print money, like I'm going to be printing money, with this, and like you just get married to your hand, immediately. You don't necessarily always you don't necessarily want to do that. You don't want to have that entitlement, because it even says here that it's 85%, with pocket aces, the most strongest hand. And so that means that 15% of the time, the aces will get cracked. The aces will lose a, a portion, a percentage of the time. So, that's why you don't want to get married to a hand, so to speak. So, after one person, you see that two people against two people with pocket aces, they win 73% of the time, which is good. Against three people, it's 64%. All right. So that's like two-thirds. Against four people, it's 56%, which is so slightly over half. And then damn near at half is five people. So, so that's pretty multi-way, once you get to like four or five people. Um, if you are going against four or five people with pocket aces, that means that you did something wrong in terms of your pre-flop raising. That means you did not raise enough. You should aim to always just have one to two people calling you, because if you don't bet enough in the beginning pre-flop with your pocket aces, and you let a shit ton of people in, it looks like, say, imagine five people get in, four or five people get in, you're only going to win that about half the time. So that's certainly not close to printing money. And if for some odd, weird reason, like everyone limped in, which I never really see happening like that, or especially with someone with aces, but in that weird scenario, that's 35% if everybody played. So that's like, about roughly a third, so that's pretty low. We used to do this. This kind of hack at the card room where if somebody had pocket aces, they would say cheeseburger, right? Kind of random say cheeseburger, but they would say that, and it was the signal to let everybody limp in. Limping in means that you're going in the hand for the minimal amount of money. Right? In my game, it's $5. Right. So if you just want to post or just to limp in, just to be able to see the flop at the minimal price, if nobody raises after that, it's $5. So everybody would put in their $5, and a lot of times the aces would get cracked, and then and then because they were running a promotion at certain times in the morning, and then so that person would win a couple $100 because they got their aces cracked. So that's a pretty good rebate for loot for that. So people would do that a lot of times in the morning, because they knew that if everyone gets in a hand, there's a decent shot that those aces are not going to be good by the end of the river, by the end of the fifth card. And then yeah, and so we would do that, and then after a while, I don't know how it happened, or maybe some people started complaining or something like that, but after a while, the pit bosses or the managers or whoever, were saying for us not to do that, because it was like some form of collusion or something, I don't know. And so so that was pretty funny, and so we had stopped doing that thing, but we used to crack people's aces in order for them to get the couple $100 of a promotion. So anyway, going back to the chart, you see that just how in the beginning it said, in the beginning of that little thing that I read, it may be obvious, but look at how every starting hand wins less against more opponents. Stats are telling you why you need to isolate with premium hands. So you have to do your best job to, especially with aces, kings, queens, I guess jacks and tens are good as well, very good as well. You want to do your best to bump the hell out of this up in the beginning, because you don't want a bunch of callers, man. You don't want a bunch of callers. Um, I guess in terms of how much you raise, it gets. I think a cutoff point might be jacks. With jacks, you might not want to get super crazy. Those are a little bit harder to play. You can play those like a glorified 10. So they're good. They're pretty damn good. But uh, just how you don't want to get married to aces or kings, you definitely don't want to get married to jacks or tens. You know what I mean? And so, but but you still go about it in the same way in terms of you want just about no more than two callers. That's kind of a good sweet spot, a nice bread and butter spot where one to two people calling you. That'll be easier to navigate, especially if you have like jacks and you raise and people didn't respect your raise because it was a little short, a little low, and you got like five people in there with you. Oh my gosh. Let's see what that is right now. Okay, so jacks, and if you had five people, 34%, so a third. Yeah. Yeah, that is very rough. Like, woo, especially with a premium like Pocket Jack. So don't go ballistically overboard in the beginning, but you still have to bump it up. You have to respect the premium hand, and a Pocket Jacks are still considered premium. They're hated or whatever, and they're like a low version of the other ones in a sense, but they're still hot cards. You know what I mean? So it's well, yesterday I went for a quick little day session, and people were the initial raiser, after maybe a person or two limp, the initial raiser after that made it $35. Then somebody called, and then somebody called that. I was like, oh wow, people are going in with 35, because prior to this it was about like maybe 15 or so that people were going in with. So for someone to do 35 and then people are calling after that, it's like, oh man, like people are really trying to do this hand, or they must have some pretty good stuff. Then after those couple of callers, it got to the very last person, and that last person made it $200. He went over the top hard on everyone, and it looked a bit like squeezy, like he was trying to squeeze those people out with their huge with the big raise, and then with the big calls after that, and it looked kind of like a bit bluffy, a bit like a big squeeze move, trying to just steal that, and everyone had pretty much folded except one guy, and he was right next to me. My friend Louis, of all people, that's his name, and he had kind of nudged me, right, and then he like showed me that he had Ace King, and I was like, oh wow, like I just kind of like I just made my eyebrows just kind of go like that was just kind of as much as I gave him, right, and he ended up calling. He had a little under 200, so he pretty much went all in with that, and the person who raised the 200 had pocket aces. So when the cards, when the flop, turn, and river came out, the pocket aces held up, because my friend Louis would have needed two kings on the board, because he had one of the aces, which the other guy already had pocket aces. And so the only thing that he could get would be either a straight, or he basically needed two kings, for trips to get out there. So, which is, pretty hard. And he ended up losing. And one thing to note from that was that the guy who was last to act, right? Uh, he made a great bet, because his reputation was a little bit on the bluffy side, in that session, or in general, how he is over there. He's not afraid to do a bluff. So he's capable. He's like person that's capable of bluffing. And then so when he made that big move, he caught somebody with that. Well, with Ace King, it's very close. It's you figure the other guy must have been super strong, extremely strong, and so with Ace King, it's pretty tough. It's tough, man. And so but the thing is, what I noted after that was like, dude, even though he went hella over the top on them, he did great. He did what he was supposed to do, because he knew that he only wanted one or no more than two guys, because we're going over the percentages here of just how much of a percentage loss you get, the more multi-way in a pot you get with other fools, right? With other people. So, I was thinking about what would I have done? Like if that was me. And then I wouldn't have bet. I was like trying to be honest with myself, and I'll share it with you guys. I was thinking, if I was in his spot and I had the premium of all premium hands, I would have wanted to not scare them off a little bit, and then I would have. made it like if everyone did 35, I would have made it 135. I would have added 100. And then to get it would be nice to get two people or at least one or something like that. And I think I would have made it something like that. I would have made it a whole extra 100 on top, and then the dude that we were playing with who made it 200. I mean it's substantially more. It's like 70 bucks more, and I mean it's not super far off, but you could tell that he wanted to drop a hammer. He didn't want to play around, and then he wanted to establish like it's better to establish a win, even if it's not as much, like maybe if he didn't knock two people out, at least get one solid one, and he did, and it's better to win at least a bit, or instead of like losing, going multi-way with a bunch of people and then you just lost a whole ton pre-flop or whatever. And who knows, maybe with aces too, people feel inclined to keep calling later on in the streets as the turn and the river come. They might, just because they have pocket aces, they might feel just like uh like it's their right, like they have to call, and so the thing is with pocket aces, you never have to call. You never have to, like, you're never forced to finish a hand, especially when you have one or two people that hung in there with you, and then maybe there's a wet board means that there's a high potential for a flush and or straight, for a flush and a straight. And then so if it's like 10 9 8 and it's all the same suit, and people in front of you are just blasting off, meaning they're just stacking chips up in front of you, and they're doing that with a super wet board, and you have pocket aces, and so all you have is one pair. It's okay to toss it in. It's okay. Like, your aces will live to see another day, and although they're super strong, just how I said earlier, you don't want to get married. You don't want to feel like you're entitled to print money. Like, just because you have that in your hand right now doesn't mean that you are 100% entitled, you know, at all, because shit can happen, right? But the odds are definitely in your favor. So just do yourself a solid and think about what will what amount can I make it for them to still call, and to have me not get everybody call. Like, you want to still deter most people from getting in there with you. So it's a very sweet spot. You have to find a sweet spot. And so this also will depend on your image at the table. That guy, for him, it was kind of a good move. And that's what people who are on the laggy side, like meaning the more loose aggressive side, how he kind of is, for him, it pays off. That's the benefit of being like a lag, is that when you have something and you start blasting off, a lot of people won't believe you because they've seen that you get out of line, and so that's a benefit of that. With me, I have to understand that people will see me tighter because I play tighter, tighter than, like tighter than not, in a sense. Like, I don't just start, splashing, and, I'm not a huge splasher like that. So they're going to know that I do have something. And then so you want to make it enough for them to still want to play with you. You don't want to blast people out of the water. You know what I mean? Or I get the visualization of like a grenade. Like, when you throw a grenade, how you throw it like over, it goes over someone and then it goes and then it explodes after. Like, you don't want to grenade them, or you don't want to blast them out of the water. You don't want to do that because people won't want to. One, if you do that enough, they might not even want to be playing with you. Like, maybe the table will start not to like you almost. Like, you want to make this like kind of like a version of like a soft hustle where, like, yeah, like they know that everyone's trying hard, everyone's doing their best, everybody wants to win, everybody wants to, all that stuff, right? But at the same time, you don't want to go like overboard with your seriousness and overboard with all this other stuff, because it takes like this fun element and this element of like that makes you want to exchange with someone, because what you're doing here is you're making exchanges with people. And so there needs to be the reciprocation of like this energy flow, so you don't want to get on people's bad side and have them think you're either an asshole or think that you're a nit, like super tight. You only just want to play this kind of like you're just poaching type of thing. Like, people want to still feel like it's a game. So that's why I said consider it like a soft hustle, So it's like you're hustling, but it's like you're soft about it, like you're not taking it super personal, if that makes any sense. And so you still want to try your best, but it's a balance, man. It's a balance. You do want to have a killer instinct. You do want to be a crusher. Like that stuff is very legitimate and valid. You do want to be aggressive, and at the same time you also want to have this air about you that is somewhat casual, that acts like you've been there before, you know what I mean, that knows that you're making exchanges, kind of like little business deals. And then so it's a balance, and every table is a little bit different. Some tables like to be quiet, some tables like to be loud, and so every table has its own vibe, and so then therefore it's a part of your job to end up seeing what this is like and accommodating to that, right? And going with the flow, right? So let's see here. I kind of went over in the importance of the numbers of all that. So I'm just want to go over real quick here. So 85% for one person with pocket aces. Then the lowest pair you can have is pocket twos. Against one person, you win half the time. So that's something to note right there, in terms of the difference between aces and twos, and because pocket twos are technically a pocket pair, but there's a reason why people don't go bonkers with it. Just how that gentleman went bonkers with his aces, because aces are the shit. Pocket twos aren't necessarily the shit. You can get really lucky if you hit trips with it. Hit a set with it on the flop. Then you're gonna freaking make. Then money is very well on your side. The equity, the EV is very well on your side, but in general, you see that there's a huge difference, a huge discrepancy from 50% to 85%. So here we have ace king suited. That's the hand that my friend had. Or I'm not sure if it was suited, but it was definitely ace king. And so you see here that against one person, that's 67%. So 2/3. So that's pretty good too, man. Jeez. I guess that's why people go bonkers with ace king all the time. You see that in my games, that people love ace king. They love ace king. So, all right. Against two people, that's 50%. Against the whole table, if you guys were to do that, 23%. So that's pretty crappy. Um, let's see here. What ace two, you'll win about 55% of the time. Okay, so a low ace. All right. Just for shits and giggles, real quick before we go, I want to go over king, queen suited, and jack 10, because those are just some hands that people think about and that come up. So against one person, king, queen suited is 63%. Okay. That's why it's a pretty good hand, for not being an ace and for not being a pair. So that's pretty bomb. That's pretty cool. Um, I want to go over jack 10 here. Jack 10 suited. So that's 58%. Okay. The reason why I wanted to go over that one is because Jack 10 is one of those hands that, in my opinion, could crack it ace pretty decently. Even like King Queen can do it pretty okay too. I like the Jack, like Jack 10 or maybe 9-10 suited. Those are some hands that have potential, I think, to crack aces, because if you get a wet board, how we talked about earlier, a board that has a high potential for a flush and a straight, those are pretty much the hands that are in the range for those wet boards. And those are the ones that will crack pocket aces, because pocket aces is still just one pair. All right. So, all right. That's, that was pretty cool. I hope you guys enjoyed that. A little food for thought, and hopefully you guys can be able to wrap your heads around that. And yeah, feel free to email me at uncannymysticminds@gmail. I'll have this underneath in the show notes. And the YouTube will be coming out, Practical Poker Profits Pod. And yeah, you can email me if you want to kind of get in touch and kind of talk about some stuff that we could do, if we can collaborate for talking about hands, or if there's any kind of ideas related to poker, and we can work that out. So hope you guys have a good one and good luck on the felt. And I'll be catching you guys later. Peace.